Hey, it's Chris. Today I just want to give you a little update. This isn't a major video or product release or anything, but an update on how my white Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro is holding up. And I've been living with them, working with them for several months, and I promised back when these came out that I would do a follow-up. So this is that follow-up. I'm just gonna go through and talk about, have they gotten dirty? How are they holding up? Because the black Magic Keyboard, I don't know if you remember this or if you've experienced it yourself, but it wasn't immune to getting kind of grimy, or let's just say it didn't stay 100% pristine itself just because it was a darker color when you typed on it. So especially like the space bar for my black Magic Keyboard last year ended up kind of getting some finger grease and prints on it and smudges and some of the other keys too. So the white obviously is going to exacerbate any kind of stains or whatever that you get on it. So, here I got some blue something or other that I set this down on a counter and it kind of got smudged onto there, and I've just left it on there for a while because I wanted to show you on here what it looked like, that it does happen. But as you can see, it's something that, well, I thought it was gonna scratch off, but actually it does actually look like it's more permanent than I thought. Just by the nature of this thing, it's protecting your iPad. You're throwing it in your bag, you're bringing it around with you everywhere you go, you're setting it on different servers and stuff. Yeah, I mean, it does get a little bit dirty. I guess the more important question is, does that stuff come off? And then also, like, what does the inside look like? Especially the high traffic keys, like the space bar. How visible is that wear? And just to be honest, both the black and the white models are going to wear if you use them, which you should, because, and I'll be talking about this a little bit, this is a great keyboard to type and use. But if you use it, it's going to show wear, regardless of the color. That's just going to happen. In fact, I think that I notice the wear on the keys less on the white model than I do on the black, but also just in terms of, gunk and stuff in areas that aren't the keys, more on the white. All right, so, just get a wet paper towel here, see if this comes off. And honestly, it's not. I think I set this down somewhere that had like crayon bits or something, and I'm sure that there's some substance out in the world that would get this off. I haven't been super worried about it. It seems like it came off like right away when I first did it, and I left it on for the video to show you guys, and now I can't get off. So I don't know, be warned, I guess. Now that said, how am I feeling about the Magic Keyboard just in general these days? In the past, you've heard me make the statements like, this is the best typing experience you can get on an iPad, bar none, period. And then a while back, I also made a video that talked about a mechanical keyboard that was really great. My favorite to use even with the iPad and with the Mac. So that seems like a little bit of a conundrum. Like, what is Chris's actual opinion? Well, let me just say, they're different things. If you're gonna pair a mechanical keyboard with your iPad Pro, then you don't get the all-in-one package here. A stand that's also a keyboard that also has a trackpad. With a mechanical keyboard setup, you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna set your iPad up. That's fine, but it tends to be too many components for somebody like me to wanna bring with when I'm actually packing up and going somewhere. Long story short, while I really love that mechanical keyboard, and I'll link that video up down below for you so you can check it out, there's nothing out there that has replaced my daily usage and me wanting to use the iPad Pro's official Magic Keyboard. And I will double down on my statement that there's no more enjoyable typing experience for me in terms of the key presses and actually getting typing and work done than this Magic Keyboard right here. So how could I say that the other keyboard was my favorite? Well, that Keychron keyboard, being just a keyboard, had some very cool keyboard specific things like the RGB lights. That's really cool. I enjoy that. I would dream of a Magic Keyboard that had RGB lights. That'd be really cool. Although that's definitely not Apple's style. So that'll never happen. But that would be awesome, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is the Magic Keyboard here has become and has remained an essential accessory for me. The go-to iPad Pro accessory. Right along with the Apple Pencil, of course, and the paper-like screen protector, which also goes with the Apple Pencil. This is sort of a rambly video, but I'll just say, if you're liking the vibe of this thing, why not hit subscribe if you're new around here? Because I got lots of great iPad content coming out all the time. I get a lot of questions. People are like, well, when you're typing, it wobbles. And I don't notice that when I'm typing. And, it probably looks more wobbly when I'm doing like a slow-mo video and showing it to you just to make it look cooler. You probably notice those wobbles more. In real life, I don't really notice that at all. All the same quirks and disappointments with the keyboard that have always existed with the Magic Keyboard for iPad are still here. I'm not gonna comment on those. Things like missing a row of function keys, you know, I get by without it. And that's just another thing. Even though there's little quirks that people point out, nothing has made me switch from this because it's just such a good typing experience. And the trackpad too, we can't forget the trackpad. I haven't encountered a better trackpad, and I've tried, you guys know, go look back on the channel. I've tried so many keyboard and mouse and trackpad combinations and cases for the iPad, and I have not found something that I like better. I daily appreciate the ability to have this extra charging port in the back over here and have this port freed up to do other things with, and also just the cord management, having it go out the back. I have just loved lately going with the super ultra minimalistic setup. I cleared off the big monitor off of my desk, and I've just been working oftentimes with my iPad Pro, and it feels so good, so uncluttered. It's a really enjoyable system and setup, having the Magic Keyboard with your iPad Pro. And by the way, I just want to mention, now that the new MacBook Pros are out with the new chips, and I made a great explainer video if you're wondering like what's the difference between the different chips in the new MacBook Pros. So I'll try to link that up down below for you too. But I feel like it used to be really hard to differentiate between a MacBook Pro and an iPad Pro and to make that call as to which one you should get, because they were getting so similar and it was feeling so arbitrary. But when these new processors in particular came out in the new MacBook Pros, and Apple just made the dream MacBook Pro basically for everybody, now these two devices feel very much differentiated for the first time in a few years in people's minds, I think. Definitely in my mind. Because it was like, well, why doesn't Apple take X, Y, or Z and stick it in the iPad Pro? But now it feels like we're back to the iPad Pro having its own personality, being its own thing again, and the Mac having its own personality and being its own very distinct thing again with the new hardware in the MacBook Pros. Does that make sense? So if an iPad's gonna work for you, and if it is, that probably means you're doing some lighter computing. That doesn't mean that you're not doing some hard-hitting stuff. You can do some great video editing on here, some great art on here. Things that the Mac can't do, especially with the Apple Pencil, definitely. But if that's the kind of work that you do and you can get away with an iPad Pro, this is the best setup in the world for that still, I think. I didn't really know everything I wanted to say about this, so I just decided to sit down in front of the camera, hit record, and see what came out and hope that there was something useful to people there. But I think my greatest annoyance here is probably when I want to use the Apple Pencil. You know, this is okay of a position, but it's not great. I don't like having to take this off, put it down, and then go like this and do it, and then put it all back together. You know, that's a pain. Like, some people are gonna say like, oh, what's the big deal? It's not a big deal. If this thing could flip around somehow, I would love that, because this does have some shortcomings and some limitations, and a lot of it has to do with how I use the Apple Pencil. I think one interesting thing to tell you is that I gravitate towards using this when I have to do an email, or when I'm gonna type something long, like an article or a script or something. Those are things that I could do on my iPhone or my Mac sometimes. But I gravitate towards using the iPad Pro. I'll seek it out for these tasks because I just like it so much. There's just some unspoken qualities about it that make me go for it over my other devices. So when I'm using Jarvis, my AI writing assistant, it's mostly on my iPad Pro with this keyboard, so I can just use this setup because I like it so much. When I'm doing research for stuff, I often do it here, even though you could argue that you could do crazier multitasking. You just can, you can. On a Mac with the external monitor and stuff, and have a lot of stuff open and do it exactly how you want, and not be stuck with, you know, a window on each side with a slide over window. You know, I gravitate even for research stuff to this because I like the Magic Keyboard so much, and because I like this overall setup so much, the iPad with the Magic Keyboard. So if you're still on the fence, or you're just getting into the iPad Pro for the first time, and I guess this would apply to just for the Magic Keyboard for the iPad Air as well, glad that it made its way there, then hopefully this is helpful. You know, a few little details here and there that might have been missed in other videos, both on my channel and elsewhere. All right, make sure that you're following @DailyTech, spelled Daily Tekk, on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Later.